Hi, I'm Valerie Engelhart, and in this video I am showing the process of me painting these green winter boots in watercolor on Arches hot press paper. Now, I usually speed up my videos, but this one is really short, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it in real time so you can see how quick this one actually went for me. I'm using just a few colors. Right now I'm using some yellow ochre, and you can see at the side I have a tube of Rockwell Canada paint. That one is Onat Diamond Yellow, which is a bright green. And then for darker areas, I'm going to use another Rockwell Canada paint called Limugreen Brown. And right now I'm just putting in kind of the shadows of the socks. This painting was done as part of 2013's Inktober prompts, and the prompt for these boots was frost. So I got to boots, and this might seem like a reach, but it makes sense to me in that frost made me think of Frozen, and Frozen made me think of Mount Everest. And Mount Everest made me think about how there are frozen corpses on the summit that are used as mile markers, and one of them is green boots. And so I was like, oh, I'll paint some green boots. It wasn't a stretch, it was genuine. So I found an image of boots. I don't think they were green, just on one of those sites like Pixabay or Unsplash, but it's been a little while, so I don't have it anymore. But seriously, just go to Pixabay, Unsplash, maybe even Pexels, and type in boots, and you can probably find this photo if you want to follow along. Now, what I'm doing on the hot press paper is a little bit of a different technique than I usually do. I very rarely sketch out my subject first, and here there are pencil lines. I went ahead and sketched out these boots because I wanted to do this technique where you scoop the paint out of the tube using your paintbrush, and then using clean water you sort of drag the color. And so traditionally in watercolor you paint from light to dark because watercolor is transparent, you layer on top, so as you keep layering things get darker. Well, in this case I wanted to start dark and then pull the color into lighter areas and leave the lightest bits just white. And so in this case, at least with these boots, I'm painting from dark to light. And it's just a different way of thinking, and I find it a lot of fun. It's different. And side note, usually rough press paper is great for granulating paints because the granules kind of sit in the pockets of the paper. But I actually find that granulating paints also look fabulous on hot press paper, and you can get some really fantastic results. I also find that the blooms and certain visual texture elements that are usually considered undesirable in watercolor, you get those effects really well, and I like those because, well, it's something you can really only get with watercolor. I mean, I've tried doing it with gouache and haven't had a lot of success, but also don't come to me for gouache advice. At least not yet, I'm still working on it. Then in this painting, I'm just going to keep layering and fiddling, but you can see from the shine of the paper, it's all still very wet. And so while it's wet, the paint is in play. I can drop in more colors or drag things about, and I won't mess it up too much. So where you can get into trouble is where the paint's lightly dry, but it's still kind of damp. And then if you introduce new colors, it can create mud. But one of the advantages of using such a limited palette, I mean a yellow and two greens, is it's going to be a little hard for me to mess up that badly and create mud. But if you overwork anything, you're going to get that effect. But yeah, I'm just working on those boots. As you saw, put down some fresh, juicy pigment just straight from the tube, and then dragging it to make my midtones. And don't be afraid of hard lines. One problem that I have personally is I have a tendency to soften all of my lines. I don't like having hard edges, and that's just a me thing. It's not, oh, you should never have hard lines in watercolor. No, soft and hard edges both make things much more visually appealing. It's just I have a tendency to soften things out. But because this was part of an Inktober challenge, I had to do the daily paintings. The goal was within half an hour, and I would hard stop at an hour. And this painting took me about 20 minutes. Now, if you're looking at the minute counter, you notice that it's a 10-minute video. So it probably didn't take me 20 minutes. It probably took me like 12. I lost a little bit of footage at the end, but it's only where I'm using yellow ochre to paint the laces. So I guess spoiler alert, you just paint the yellow for the laces where I drew them in, and then it's done. But all of the good visual texture, all of the things that are important really come with how I'm doing these boots, how I'm putting the shine in by not painting it, and leaving some edges hard because I was really focusing on value for this and not so much on color. And that's another little bit of advice. I have a Notenizer app on my phone, but you can just turn your photo into a grayscale using the settings on your phone and Photos. And that allows you to see everything in black and white, so you see values, you don't see color. And typically, as long as you get your values right, you can use whatever colors you want. That's how other artists can paint convincing rainbow animals and rainbow people, because what they're doing is they're paying attention to the values. And so here, I've got my Limugreen brown, and I'm putting it on thick because this part of the boots is very dark. It's that sole, and then you see I'm just putting little dots where the bottoms are. So anywhere that my photo looks black, that's what I'm doing right now. And now that that thick paint is applied, I'm going to drag it to create the mid-tone values in those rubber soles. And that just creates visual interest. If everything was just, I'm in this case really working with 3 values on my phone. I isolated it to my light tones, which I left white, my mid-tones, and my dark tones. But if I had just painted it only using those 3 values, it would still look good, but just, I like some more subtle variation. And now I'm creating a shadow, loosening things up, so dragging my brush to create a puddle kind of around the boots, but bringing it more to the right side. And that's creating some lost edges on the bottom of the boots. And another thing about, well, watercolor, but any painting really, is how I was saying, hard and soft. So lost and found edges are fantastic to have. And another great thing about these granulating paints is that when you add water to them and drag them out, they begin to separate. And a lot of these paints have like multiple colors in them. I greatly recommend playing around with them. And it doesn't just have to be Rockwell Canada paints. Danial Smith has fun granulating paints. What other ones do I have over here? I've got like the Schminke paints. So manufacture doesn't matter so much, just looking at what pigments are in the paints. A big favorite that I've seen is Moon Glow. But yeah, at this point, the boots are done. I just really need to add the laces. But that shows you the process for how I painted the boots. Put in a sketch, and then painted from dark to light using fresh, juicy pigment. So thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have anything you want to see from me, and have a great day. Happy painting!